It's a sudden and alarming escalation, but it hasn't happened in a vacuum. And in order to understand how we got here, it helps to understand Putin's playbook.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has ordered what he's calling peacekeeping operations.
Declaring he will recognise the independence of 2 regions in Ukraine.
How do you invade Ukraine without invading Ukraine? If you're Vladimir Putin, you start by formally recognising the territorial claims of Russia-backed separatists in the eastern provinces of Donetsk and Luhansk. Then you offer to send in a peacekeeping force, and because you've been arming and training said separatists, they say yes. We have seen this trick before. In 2014, Russia annexed Crimea. At a time of political upheaval, it expressed concern for the rights of ethnic Russians. And then non-uniformed Russian troops seized control of the Crimean government. When that government held a referendum, a whopping 123% of Sevastopol's citizens turned out to vote and asked if they would like to join Russia. The official answer was a resounding and suspicious yes. But why go through all this? Well, it's a history thing. Until 1991, Moscow exerted direct control over Ukraine, first as part of the Russian Empire, then the Soviet Union.
Ukraine is not just a neighbouring country. It's an integral part of our history, culture, spiritual continuum.
Naturally, not everyone in Ukraine has the warm and fuzzies for Russia.
There are hundreds of people I know there. No one wants this shit. What is happening there and here is absurd.
But Putin hasn't risked heavy sanctions and potentially bloody military confrontation with the West just because of a deep cultural affinity. At its heart, this is about security and a little thing called NATO. NATO is the world's most powerful military alliance, created in 1949 specifically to counter Russia's rising threat. All its members pledge to come to each other's aid in the event of an attack.
Who is the main enemy for the US and NATO? We know. It's Russia.
Since the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991, Russia's sphere of influence has steadily shrunk. One by one, Russia's former Eastern European allies have joined NATO. If, as expected, Ukraine follows suit, it'll bring the enemy to Russia's doorstep. Putin believes NATO's breached a 1991 agreement not to expand eastward.
Putin has presided over 4 waves of NATO expansion eastward, and for him, Ukraine is really the final stand.
America argues there has been no breach, but that's not much comfort to Russia. Imagine if the situation were reversed, as one former DFAT chief did this week. If Mexico was about to form a really strong military alliance with China, how do you think America would react?
Russia knows that the United States won't put boots on the ground in Ukraine because Ukraine is not a NATO member.
What's certain, Putin's latest move has brought Russia and the West to the brink.
It was not a scripted speech. It was a very emotional speech. The stress was clearly showing.
So, who will blink first?
Well, Maria Avdeeva is an expert on Russian-Ukraine relations and she joins us now. Do you think this is playing out the way Putin wants it to?
No, I don't think so. I think Putin is now trying to hold his face because the concession he wanted never have been given to Putin, and that is the sovereignty of Ukraine and the Ukrainian possibility to join NATO. So what he wanted is to have full control over Ukraine and the sphere of influence he is talking about all the time. That was not given, and now he decided to make this move just to do something and to show something to his own population.
So, Maria, do you think this possibly goes all away if Ukraine agrees not to join NATO, or has it gone past that point now?
Well, it is very disturbing situation now because Russia is constantly making provocations on the occupied territories, accusing Ukraine. So now in the morning they said that Ukraine made sabotage on the occupied territories and 3 civilians were killed. And now that gives ground to Russia.
Is there legitimacy to Putin's claim that modern Ukraine is a creation of Russia? How has that been received in Kiev?
Well, it is really ridiculous, and Putin himself said that the collapse of the USSR was his own biggest tragedy, his personal tragedy, and he says that Russia was humiliated, and now he wants to be like a big power sitting on the table and everyone listening to what he wants to tell. And of course, no, Ukraine is now more united than ever and ready to fight and to resist Russian aggression. That's complete nonsense and doesn't have any ground upon it.
So with Putin's address that we saw overnight, did you get the sense that he was somehow ragged or out of control?
Yes, well, everyone was watching that. Actually, it reminded me about Hitler because he was going like for 45 minutes about the history of Ukraine, which is really weird. Like the president of other countries speaking about the history of their neighbor for 45 minutes in the address to his own population. So it looks really threatening because now he can, claim other countries should be seen as someone who get their independence not in the correct way. Probably Poland would be next, or who else? Our other neighbors.
Maria, what's the feeling like there? Are people just in a holding pattern and waiting for something to happen, or are they trying to go about their lives?
Well, we have been in this war for 80 years now, so it started in 2014. Russia is now only legitimizing the troops on the occupied territories, which were already there. And so people have this anxiety, but on the other hand, they get prepared. They go to the territorial defense units trainings. I mean, ordinary civilians go to the trainings on weekends. And we have many people who already have war experience and ready to combat and to stand for Ukraine. So Ukraine is ready to resist and to fight. There is no panic. And what Putin actually wants is to threaten everyone, but it's not going out that way for him now.
Maria, we really appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much.